Welcome to our deep dive into the world of JFK assassination research. We're going beyond the headlines today, exploring excerpts from the Third Decade Journal. Think of it as a treasure trove of insights from those who've spent years, digging into this event.
Absolutely. We've got some fascinating threads to untangle. We'll examine the legacy of a key researcher, explore a series of unsettling double deaths, and analyze some controversial photographs of Lee Harvey Oswald.
Get ready for some serious aha moments.
Yeah.
You might think you know the JFK story, but these articles reveal layers of detail and connections that go way beyond the standard narrative. Let's dive in.
Let's start with a woman named Sylvia Meagher. You might not know her name, but she's a legend in JFK research circles.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more about this Sylvia Meagher. What made her so important?
Well, imagine sifting through the massive Warren Commission report, the official investigation into the assassination. It's thousands of pages, a labyrinth of information. Meagher took on the Herculean task of indexing and cross-referencing that entire report.
That sounds incredibly tedious. Why would she dedicate so much time to that?
Because she knew that buried within those pages were inconsistencies, contradictions, and overlooked details that challenged the official narrative. Her work was like handing a magnifying glass to other researchers, allowing them to see the cracks in the Warren Commission's conclusions.
So she was basically laying the groundwork for decades of critical JFK research.
Exactly. For example, Meagher's indexing revealed discrepancies in witness testimonies about the timing and direction of the shots fired in Dealey Plaza. These discrepancies cast doubt on the single bullet theory, which is a cornerstone of the Warren Commission's conclusion that Oswald acted alone.
That's incredible. It's amazing how one person's dedication to detail can have such a ripple effect impacting an entire field of research. Starting to understand why she's considered a legend.
And her work didn't stop there. She wrote a book called Accessories After the Fact, which meticulously analyzed the Warren report, highlighting its flaws and omissions. This book became a cornerstone for those questioning the official narrative.
Okay, so Sylvia Meagher set the stage for critical analysis of the JFK assassination. What's next on our deep dive agenda?
Well, this is where things get a bit eerie. The journal includes an article called Stray Shots, which focuses on a series of double deaths connected to key figures in the assassination.
Double deaths? Wait, hold on, you're serious? That's way too many coincidences to ignore. Tell me more about these double deaths. Who are we talking about here?
We're talking about individuals linked to Lee Harvey Oswald, Jack Ruby, and even David Ferrie, a pilot who was investigated for possible involvement in the assassination. It's a web of connections that starts to feel like something out of a spy thriller.
Okay, this is getting creepy. Give me some specifics. Who died and how are these deaths connected?
Well, let's start with the most obvious. Oswald and Ruby. They died within days of each other. Oswald was shot by Ruby, and Ruby died in prison shortly after. Then there's David Ferrie, who died under suspicious circumstances just hours after a business partner was found murdered.
That's two sets of double deaths already. Is there more?
Oh, there's more. George de Mohrenschildt, a Russian emigre who befriended Oswald in Dallas, died under suspicious circumstances on the same day as a Chicago mob enforcer in 1977.
Hold on, I need to catch my breath. That's a whole lot of people connected to the JFK assassination dying in pairs. What's supposed to make of this?
That's the million-dollar question. Were these just tragic coincidences? Or could there be a more sinister explanation? The article doesn't offer definitive answers, but it certainly raises the possibility that these deaths were not random occurrences.
My mind is officially blown. This is some seriously unsettling stuff. Makes you wonder if there are forces at play that we're not even aware of. Okay, let's move on to something a little less morbid. What about those controversial photos of Oswald? What's so intriguing about them?
The article Oswald's Revolutionary Salute examines some infamous photos showing Oswald seemingly giving a clenched fist salute shortly after his arrest. These photos have been used to portray him as a communist radical, but the author of the article challenges their authenticity.
So are we talking about photo manipulation? Was someone trying to frame Oswald? Give me the details.
The author meticulously analyzes the photos, highlighting inconsistencies in Oswald's hand positions and the handcuffs he was wearing. The article argues that it would have been nearly impossible for Oswald to contort his hands into those positions given how tight the handcuffs appear in other photos from that day.
So these photos might be staged, but why? What would be the purpose of creating fake photos of Oswald giving a communist salute?
That's what makes this deep dive so fascinating. We're not just looking at the evidence, we're trying to understand the motivations behind it. Were these photos intended to sway public opinion against Oswald? To create a narrative that fit the lone gunman theory? These are the kinds of questions that keep researchers digging for answers.
Okay, I'm hooked. This deep dive is already challenging everything I thought I knew about the JFK assassination. I can't wait to see what other revelations await us in the next part.
Then make sure to join us for part 2, where we'll continue to unravel the mysteries surrounding the JFK assassination. Trust me, you won't want to miss it.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the Third Decade Journal. In part 1, we explored Sylvia Meagher's legacy and those chilling double deaths. Where do we go from here?
Let's examine an article that digs into a seemingly mundane detail: Oswald's unemployment compensation, 1963. It might not sound thrilling, but trust me, it raises some intriguing questions.
Okay, I'm curious. Why would Oswald's unemployment benefits be significant in the context of the assassination?
The article points out that Oswald received his first unemployment check on November 22nd, 1963. Yes, the very day Kennedy was assassinated.
Wow, that timing is certainly interesting. What's the author's point?
The author suggests this detail challenges the common perception of Oswald as a disgruntled, anti-establishment figure. If he was truly planning this assassination as an act of rebellion, why would he be eagerly awaiting an unemployment check from the system he supposedly despised?
That's a good point. It adds another layer of complexity to Oswald's character and motivations. Okay, let's shift gears a bit. What about the medical evidence? Anything new there?
There's an article titled "The President's Back Wound: An FBI Agent Dissents." It introduces the perspective of Robert Gemberling, a former FBI agent, who argues that Kennedy's back wound was actually an exit wound.
Hold on, an exit wound. Wouldn't that mean the shot came from the front, contradicting the idea that Oswald was the lone gunman firing from the book depository?
Exactly. Gemberling bases his argument on his observations of Kennedy's clothing. He claims the bullet hole in the back of the jacket was too small and neat to have been caused by a bullet entering the body. It's more consistent with a bullet exiting the body.
Okay, so imagine you're looking at a piece of fabric. An entry wound would be rough with fibers pushed inward. An exit wound would be cleaner with fibers pushed outward. Gemberling argues that Kennedy's jacket shows the latter.
He also points out that the damage to the back of Kennedy's shirt, which was bunched up at the time, supports this theory. The bullet traveled from the inside out, not the other way around.
So if Gemberling is right, this blows the single bullet theory out of the water. It points to at least one shot from the front, possibly from the grassy knoll.
And remember, Sylvia Meagher also questioned the single bullet theory based on witness discrepancies she found. This article adds another layer of doubt to the official narrative.
Okay, so we've got potential issues with Oswald's motive, and now a serious challenge to the single bullet theory. Is there a larger argument for conspiracy emerging from these articles?
There's an article titled "The Kennedy Assassination: The Case for Conspiracy," which examines various pieces of evidence that point towards a plot involving multiple individuals.
All right, lay it on me. What kind of evidence are we talking about?
Well, first, the article revisits those witness testimonies we talked about earlier. Numerous people reported hearing shots from the grassy knoll, not just the book depository.
And let's not forget the badge man figure that some researchers claim to see in the Mormon photo, standing behind the fence on the grassy knoll.
Exactly. The article explores the various interpretations of that figure, as well as other photographic evidence that suggests a possible second shooter.
What about the medical evidence? Does this article delve into that as well?
Absolutely. The article highlights the inconsistencies surrounding the head wound, specifically the location of the entry and exit wounds. The Parkland doctors who treated Kennedy immediately after the shooting described a large exit wound in the back of the head.
But the official autopsy report placed the exit wound in the right temple, supporting the idea of a shot from behind.
Right. So the article challenges the official bullet trajectory, suggesting that the evidence is more consistent with a shot from the front. It even raises the possibility that Kennedy's body or the autopsy photos were tampered with.
Wow, that's a serious accusation. Did the article offer any evidence to support that claim?
It points to the testimony of several witnesses who claim to have seen alterations to Kennedy's wounds or discrepancies in the appearance of his body at different times. This raises questions about the chain of custody, which basically means the careful documentation of evidence to ensure its integrity.
So it's not just about the physical evidence itself, but also about who handled it and whether there was any opportunity for manipulation.
Exactly. The article argues that in a case as high stakes as the JFK assassination, every detail matters. Every potential avenue of manipulation needs to be considered.
This is making my head spin. We're talking about possible evidence tampering, conflicting witness accounts, and a challenge to the official bullet trajectory. It's getting harder and harder to ignore the possibility of a conspiracy.
And we're just scratching the surface of what the third decade has to offer. Make sure to join us for part 3, where we delve even deeper into these intriguing articles.
We're back for the final chapter of our JFK deep dive with the Third Decade Journal. In parts 1 and 2, we uncovered some seriously unsettling details, chilling double deaths, potentially staged photos, and even an FBI agent who challenges the single bullet theory. What else awaits us in this treasure trove of JFK research?
Well, there's an article that tackles a topic often overlooked in mainstream discussions of the assassination, the media's role. It's titled The Media and the JFK Assassination: Shading Perceptions and Obscuring Truths.
Okay, the media, obviously they reported on the event, but how does that tie into the mysteries and potential conspiracies we've been discussing?
The author argues that the media both intentionally and unintentionally shape public perception of the assassination and influence the course of the investigation.
So they weren't just passive observers, they were actively shaping the narrative.
Think about the initial coverage right after the assassination. The media quickly jumped to conclusions about Oswald's guilt, often portraying him as the lone gunman before any real evidence had been gathered. This rush to judgment created a powerful public perception of Oswald as the killer, which may have influenced the investigation and the Warren Commission's findings.
It's like they were setting the stage for the lone gunman theory before a thorough investigation could even begin.
Exactly. And it goes beyond just Oswald. The article points out how the media emphasized certain pieces of evidence, like the rifle found in the book depository, while downplaying or ignoring others that contradicted the official narrative.
Like those witness testimonies from people who claimed to hear shots coming from the grassy knoll.
Precisely. This selective reporting, whether deliberate or not, contributed to the widespread acceptance of the Warren Commission's conclusions.
It's a stark reminder of how powerful the media can be in shaping not just our opinions, but our perception of reality.
Absolutely. This article raises crucial questions about the responsibility of the media to present information objectively and to avoid perpetuating potentially biased narratives.
Okay, so we've got the media possibly influencing public opinion and the investigation itself.
Yeah.
What other perspectives does the Third Decade offer?
There's an article that examines the assassination's aftermath and its impact on American society. It's called The Legacy of the JFK Assassination: Trauma, Distrust, and the Erosion of Faith.
That title alone is heavy. I can only imagine the collective trauma the nation experienced after such a shocking event.
The article argues that the unresolved questions and lingering doubts surrounding the assassination had a profound impact on the American psyche. It fostered a sense of distrust in government and institutions, especially if people believed there was a cover-up.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
If you believe the truth is being hidden from you, you start to question everything.
Exactly. The assassination and the lack of transparency in the investigation contributed to growing cynicism and disillusionment. People started asking, who can we trust? What else are they hiding from us?
And this distrust probably seeped into other areas of life as well, right?
Absolutely. The article argues that the assassination and the conspiracy theories it spawned impacted American culture in profound ways. It influenced everything from movies and books to political discourse and social movements.
Like the Watergate scandal just a few years later.
Yeah.
That was all about government secrecy and abuse of power.
Right. The JFK assassination became a symbol of everything wrong with America. The violence, the hidden agendas, the possibility that those in power weren't being truthful with the public.
This deep dive is really driving home the point that the JFK assassination wasn't just a single event. It was a turning point in American history, the ripple effects of which are still being felt today.
And that's why these deep dives are so important. They remind us to question, to challenge assumptions, to look beyond the surface.
Okay, before we wrap up, there's one article I'm particularly curious about. It's the review of Henry Hurt's book, Reasonable Doubt. He's known for taking a critical look at the Warren Commission's findings. What does he focus on in this book?
Hurt dives deep into the evidence surrounding Lee Harvey Oswald, meticulously challenging the notion that he was the lone gunman. He scrutinizes the physical evidence, the witness testimonies, even Oswald's background, raising doubts about his capability and motive to pull off the assassination.
It's like he's trying to dismantle the foundation upon which the official narrative is built. What are some of the key points he brings up?
Well, he takes aim at that infamous magic bullet, arguing that its pristine condition after supposedly passing through two bodies, inflicting multiple wounds, is simply implausible.
We talked earlier about the back wound and how an FBI agent argued it was actually an exit wound, contradicting the single bullet theory. Hurt's analysis adds another layer of doubt to that already shaky theory.
Exactly. Hurt also questions whether Oswald even owned the rifle found in the book depository. He raises concerns about the chain of custody of the weapon, suggesting the possibility of evidence tampering.
So we're back to that idea of questioning not just the evidence itself, but how it was handled, who had access to it, and whether there was any opportunity for manipulation.
Yeah.
What about Oswald's alleged motive? Does Hurt address that?
He does. He challenges the common portrayal of Oswald as a disgruntled communist, suggesting that his actions may have been influenced by other factors. Remember what we discussed about those potentially staged photos of him giving a clenched fist salute? It's all about creating a narrative, painting a picture of Oswald that fits the lone gunman theory.
It's like he was a pawn in a much larger game, whether he realized it or not.
That's one of the possibilities Hurt explores. He encourages us to consider that Oswald might have been part of a larger plot orchestrated by forces beyond his control, perhaps involving intelligence agencies or other powerful entities.
Wow. This deep dive has been a roller coaster of information and revelations. It's made me realize how much I just accepted as fact without truly questioning it.
And that's the power of exploring primary sources like the third decade. They challenge us to think critically, to question assumptions, and to dig deeper into the complexities of history.
I have to admit, though, it's a bit overwhelming. There are so many conflicting viewpoints, so many unanswered questions. It's hard to know what to believe.
That's the nature of historical inquiry, especially when dealing with an event as shrouded in mystery as the JFK assassination. The goal isn't necessarily to arrive at definitive answers, but to engage in the process of questioning, exploring, and piecing together the puzzle.
You're right. It's about the journey, about embracing the complexity and accepting that there may never be a simple, satisfying explanation.
And that's precisely what makes these deep dives so rewarding. They're not about passive absorption of information, but about actively engaging with history. They challenge us to be critical thinkers, to question the narratives we've been given, and to form our own conclusions based on the evidence presented.
This deep dive into the third decade has been a truly eye-opening experience. We've uncovered layers of intrigue delving into the heart of the JFK assassination mystery and exploring the far-reaching implications of this pivotal event. It's clear that the JFK assassination is not just a historical footnote, it's a living narrative that continues to shape our understanding of truth, power, and the very nature of democracy.
We've seen how seemingly small details can have profound implications, how evidence can be manipulated, and how powerful forces can shape narratives to fit their agendas. It's a reminder that we must always be vigilant to question what we're told and to seek out diverse perspectives.
As we conclude this deep dive, we encourage you to continue your own exploration of the JFK assassination. Read the articles, examine the evidence, and form your own conclusions. The journey of discovery never truly ends.
Remember, history is not just about the past. It's about understanding the present and shaping the future. And the JFK assassination, with all its complexities and unanswered questions, remains a powerful reminder of the importance of truth, transparency, and the constant pursuit of justice.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the third decade. Keep questioning, keep searching, and keep the conversation alive. Until next time, keep exploring.